Richard Silver, and I'm with the Silver Burtnick team at Sotheby's International Realty Canada. And I have some very important people with me. I have Andre Bodnar, who is from Artifakt, and also Maximillian Specht. And they're both from Artifakt. And we thought we would talk today a little bit about marketing, websites, et cetera, And I was just mentioning to them that what I fear, and because I've been through a couple of very challenging sales times in my career, I've noticed that a lot of people have a tendency to actually freeze and to pull back on their marketing. And I just wanted to have that discussion with you. I mean, obviously people should be moving ahead, but why are those reasons? Whoever wants to handle that one, Andre?
Yeah, sure. I think what I've noticed online is agents have kind of done a bunch of different things, and there's sort of three ways they kind of reacted to it. One is some agents just said, I'm not addressing this. I'm just continuing as is. Some agents really got into the virtual. They're buying gloves, hand sanitizer, really pushing virtual tours. Yeah, let's see it. Really pushing the virtual aspect of their businesses, which is great. And like you said, some other agents kind of just didn't do anything and didn't know what to do and kind of even paused their business. So I think the important part is like people just don't really know what to say or how to say it. Yeah. And I think there's a lot to be said, but it's all about the messaging and it's all about how you promote that to your network, right?
Yeah, there's a lot of discussion from people in my office, people from the industry, and I totally don't understand some of them. Some of them have pulled active listings off the market.
Sure.
They put them on exclusive. And because they don't want to be seen as taking advantage of a marketplace. And yet I just think, I think from what I've seen from our results, Google and everything, the views are they're up 20%.
For sure.
Why would you take something and make it exclusive and take it off the MLS now?
For sure. I think right now is an amazing time in marketing because you get so much attention. Yeah. And it's so easy to get and it's cheap to get. Yeah. And before we'd be struggling, like every agent is struggling. How can I get more views? How can I get more people to read my newsletter or whatever it is? But now you look at those views, you look at those open rates, and it's just amazing how much more attention you get.
Yeah, it's amazing. And I totally don't understand. So Max, you're the content guy. You're the one who talks about how do we present ourselves in this marketplace, this new unnatural?
Mm-hmm. So I think what you're both touching on is fantastic. And it speaks to really the key consumer need that we're seeing right now with those spikes in traffic and with people looking for more stuff. And really that's the element of trust and trusting your experts. And we talk a lot about in, everyday discourse around expertise, trusting medical experts to inform how we interact as a society and trusting expertise around us in every single facet. And right now, because of that focus on not only news consumption for every single person, because we're all looking at the news, we're all looking at Twitter, we're all looking at everything coming in, it just increases the necessity for expertise and what people are looking for, which is people they can trust and they can turn to. So the messaging that we found to be some of the most effective for agents right now is really playing on that, leveraging the fact that you're the expert, you know what to tell them, and they should trust you to, tell them when to move, how to transact, when's the right time, and simply not to force you into a decision, to allow you to come to that decision. And that's really the messaging that works. It's the messaging that, is honest with people, gives them the raw deal, the actual kind of what's happening in the market, what it means for them, and what they should do about it, rather than saying, transact. Because even though it might be a good time to do it, people don't resonate with that messaging because it feels pushy. And the last thing people want to do is feel pushed right now.
Yeah, it was when I can't remember. I think it was 1982 or 1983. I'd been in the business for a little while. I'd done really well. I bought myself a great big BMW, and then all of a sudden the market just completely, the rates went up, people lost jobs, and the market fell apart. And here I was, driving around this big, an XL in the BMW line, which is just a little bit bigger than longer than some of the other cars. But those were days where we were driving people around, and I just felt really embarrassed every time I pulled up to to a client's house to talk to them about listing their property, and knew that they were having to sell because they didn't have a job. And I'm in this big car, so I felt really, I did eventually sell it, and I moved to something smaller and a little bit more circumstantial. But you know what? It was the positioning of that was really, really important, because people were hurting. And I think, no matter what people say, there's going to be people hurting, in the next little while. It's not going to get better. It's going to be really tough on the economy, but there are people right now who still need to buy, and there are people who still need to sell, and that's our job.
For sure. And the other big part of agent marketing anyways is that we never make the assumption that somebody's going to want to transact immediately, but they will at some point in time. And it's all about making sure that they remember your brand, your business, your message. So when they are going to make that decision, they'll remember you. And hopefully they'll remember, when I was in this difficult time of uncertainty, this agent and what they were providing me carried me through that a bit. So I wasn't worried so much about the biggest investment I've ever made in my life.
Yeah, no, it's true. It's true. It's a real mix of things. So let me ask you, in other words, so marketing, we got to keep on going. We got to keep up with the latest and talk about, new technologies. And what else do you think is on the horizon as far as changes coming into the marketplace that are driven by coronavirus? You seeing anything different?
So I'll speak to this one, but
Sure.
We've been doing a lot of research in terms of consumer trends and what people are searching, what people are interested in, and how COVID-19 coronavirus will have long-lasting impacts in how people interact with content, not necessarily how they'll transact. I mean, there will be huge pieces of that from the virtual process, because even if there's a vaccine, there will be people who are definitely concerned about going places in person, shaking hands with other people, and signing documents with someone right across the table from you. That will not end. That anxiety will probably persist for the next 5 to potentially 10 years. It could be a decade-defining kind of anxiety that plays in. So that optionality is going to be really great for a lot of agents. The new normal is exactly that. It's virtual. It's what we're doing right this second. It's Zoom calls. It's all that. But some of the other things that we're seeing specifically with regards to kind of situational transactions, so people who are upsizing, downsizing, folks who have kids moving in back home who decided to downsize too early might be looking to upsize again, layouts and home offices and things like that. Those research points for a lot of consumers are going to shift dramatically in how people look at properties, how they assess properties. And really, even though it might seem small, like, is your home equipped to have a home office? It's the new normal. It's going to become almost a requirement.
Yeah, I'm wondering what it's going to do, number one, to Airbnb, which is going to be a big issue. And the other one, I think, is I think there's a lot of companies who are going to say, you know what, we don't have to have our staff here. I mean, I know that you guys moved home. You had an office. It was a big office. It was probably too big for what you wanted. And you made the decision months ago to move home.
Yeah,
so that everybody could work from home. And thank God you did, eh?
Yeah, we actually did that on February 1st, which was just in time. But like me and Max were talking about this earlier, and he was saying that while a lot of other people were getting adjusted to what it was like working from home, that already existed for us, and we already had people working from home before that sometimes. So we've always sort of been in that virtual space, and it didn't change how we work together, what our process is, or how we interact with our clients either.
Exactly. I'm just sorry I didn't buy shares in Zoom. I always say I should have bought shares in Zoom or Pornhub. I'm not sure which, but either one I would do very well right now. The new abnormal is definitely virtual. Anyway, so what did I want to ask? I wanted to ask you more about, do you see, I know there's a lot more focus on things like Matterport and different types of presentation of photos and Facebook Lives, and where do you think that's heading? Is it just the new normal and that's it? We're going to keep doing it, or?
I think so. I think consumers are already kind of wanted that anyways, and a lot of agents have been coming to us now and saying, "Hey, I need to update my virtual strategy. Like, what are other people doing? How can I adapt this into my presentation? How can I adapt this in my website? What's the messaging?" And we've seen a big push for agents wanting to do that and move forward more with that.
Listen, I was very involved with the Toronto Real Estate Board, as you know, and Canadian Real Estate Association. Never did I ever think that they would go for, virtual open houses instead of real
Yeah,
open houses. And it's like they're now a big part of the website, and it's really changing our business. And also, I think, I know that some brokerages and some boards are not counting days on the market now.
oh really?
Yeah, because it's just been, they think it's really going to be a bad thing for the consumer or for the seller if days on the market are tabulated during a time like this. So they're
Sure.
not doing that. They're not searching that anymore, which is a good move.
From a messaging standpoint, really before all this, the virtual tours and all that stuff was kind of gravy for a lot of agents in their marketing and their messaging. It was like a nice to have, but now it's must have. And really what it comes down to from a brand messaging standpoint is how you articulate the value there on top of the value of being remote, on top of the assumed value of what life is like under a global pandemic. But on top of that, how it provides for a buyer more access to a home. You can see every nook and cranny on your terms, and you can spend actual time with it to assess a property. And for a seller, it allows you to showcase everything about your property instead of having to cram it into an MLS description, something like that. So it does open up that world.
Well, it was really funny because, as you know, I have my house on the market on Castle Frank Crescent. And so I decided to do a virtual walkthrough the other day and went through all the photos. We had over 100 photos, and I went through them. And because I was the seller and I had all the experiences, I was able to tell people the story of what was happening as we were walking through the room and what we had done. And, I'm chomping at the bit to get one of my sellers to say, yeah, sure, I'll do the walkthrough. I'm good with it, because I think that makes a lot more, it gives it's sort of like one of the things we often like to do is with each house, have the seller prepare a book about what it was they loved about the house, why they bought it, what was the drivers, where they like to shop, all of those things. And it just gives it so much more personality if you can do that. So
agreed. And you can then wrap it together kind of in a nice little package to say, all in one video. You can see it, you can experience it in real time, and you can get that storytelling aspect. It's beautiful.
Yeah, it's all about telling a story. It always has been. Real estate, it's always been about telling a story, and either helping people aspire to something or helping people downsize for certain reasons. I was able to say why it was we were selling, and how much we love the house, and there's always how much we love the street and the shopping. But just as a realtor, oftentimes we're just brought in and we don't have that kind of background. So it was great to be able to do. And now I just have to find my clients who want to do it.
For sure.
So we're working on a new project together. We're moving forward with a new website. Of course, it'll be ready 2 days from today and all finished. So anything that would have changed from our first conversation about the new website to now because of coronavirus?
So basically the way that the great part about the websites that we create, because we create them in a very flexible fashion, that they're kind of living all the time. They're always changeable, and we always empower our clients to make those changes themselves. That's a huge part of our business model, really, is not nickel and diming clients for every single change. So things can change as the context shifts. But in terms of the project as it stands from the first day that we talked to today, I think your case is unique in the sense that your digital marketing adoption has been really strong, stronger than your average agent. I would say, I think I was even seeing, I think the day that we spoke during our first call was a video you posted on Facebook of Castle Frank Road and right. doing kind of an introduction of it and saying, we're going to be doing this video later. So I was like, oh, okay, that's good to know, because it gives me a good taste of what this person prioritizes. So for the agents that prioritize digital marketing, the projects remain relatively similar, because it means that we can just loop in more benefits. We can do a little bit more storytelling. But overall, from a project standpoint, what we've been doing is really, it all comes down to the verbiage. It all comes down to the storytelling around your brand. And like you mentioned earlier with the BMW anecdote, agents don't want to come off as tone deaf right now. That's the biggest limitation or damage to your brand is coming off as tone deaf. And that is something that we've noticed a lot of anxiety about for sure. And so when we're creating these projects and as we're kind of going through their life cycle, we're really kind of reviewing at every stage as things are changing in 2-week chunks, how we might need to change those things to make it more, you know, in the moment.
Yeah. My experience with the worst recession that we had was that things were tough. But because of the toughness, there were people who had to buy and people who had to sell, and they had to make the change. And strangely enough, what we found was it was the delta between the two prices that didn't change a lot. Whether the market was great or the market was low or the market was just holding, it was the delta, just the difference between those two prices. And that it didn't change. The market went up, the market went down, but the delta didn't change very much. And I think that's, again, what people have to focus on. It's sort of, they're not going to get, they may not get the most wonderful price that they would have gotten 3 years ago, but, you know, they can also buy for less, et cetera, and move on to different other things. So, you know, get their money out so they can buy shares in Zoom.
Boom, done.
And Artifact, buy shares in Artifact.
Sure, go for it.
Anyways, again, thanks very much for this conversation. It's been great. Any last thoughts before we sign off? Things we haven't covered?
I think that although what's happening right now is a big change,
yes,
as an agent, your business always changes. Whatever you do now is going to be different 5 years from now. Like your niche will change, your market will change, everything will change. And although this is just a big change, it is part of the natural process of being an agent and having a business.
It's interesting.
Look at it that way. The agents that look at it that way are the ones that will be successful, I think.
Yeah, it's interesting because last year, about a year ago, I was in Chicago with a friend of mine, Kevin Brown, and we were speaking at a conference, and the topic was what to do in a shifting market.
Oh, wow.
And who would know that we were going to shift this high? But I mean, shift happens, you know, that's the reality. And you just have to adapt.
I like that. Have you said that already before? I like that.
Sadly enough, I think a couple of people have written books on that. Shift happens. Anyways, again, thanks very much. So we've got Andre Bodnar and we've got Max Specht. Yes, did I say it right? Maximilian?
Oh, you got it. You got it.
Thanks a million, Maximilian.
You got it.
And from Artifact. So ARTIFAKT.
That's right. Artifactdigital.com.
Perfect. Okay. Thanks again.
Thanks,
really appreciate it. And have a wonderful, wonderful afternoon.
You too.
Take care.
Thank you.
Okay. So I just stopped the recording. I hope I just stopped the recording. Stop.